happen. Because
or even like what you were going to do in the Ashcan with the 8 pages or whatever, like that could be that way. You don't have to do double duty.
Right.
It's right there.
Well, and I like, to your point about double duty, I like repurposing content.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I like taking a comic book and then having it carved up into every single individual panel. And then you can schedule out posts with, I don't know, what is there, four to 6 panels a page usually times 24 pages. I mean, you've got yourself 125 or so social posts you could do if you did it that way. And that's really nice because that like kind of short form content, it's just hard. It's really hard to make enough content to keep social media paying attention to you.
Especially if you're not the artist.
Well, right. Exactly. All I can do is just jump on camera and be a barker, but like the artists can always doodle something or whatever and whip something up that's cool. As the writer, what am I going to put on? You know, no one wants to see that.
Well, I also think there's a lot to be said, especially with an Ashcan situation. Like we were talking about concept art. People really like to see a piece of art go from the very beginning concept to a finished piece of art. There's a lot of room to play with different levels of finished art. You know, you can take a panel and do an entire page of its progress from beginning to end.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's a really fun, cool idea.
Yeah, people really enjoy that.
Yeah, that's neat for an Ashcan, is like a script to page kind of thing, you know. So you do your 8 pages and then you grab the best looking page and you say like, here was the script, here's the pencils, here's the inks, here's the color. Like that's dope.
You can even throw in the thumbnail, like people love to see that. Because then it feels like you're that sense of like being a voyeur on the development gives you a little bit of feeling of investment, like you were there for it, you know, somehow.
Well, that, and there's a story there too behind, like, because especially if you work closely with the artist, like I do, you know, like you're working together to make the pages end up to be the best they can. So sometimes they change between script to lettering, right? So there's a story there as it is. So you're like, oh, well, this is how the script started. This is how the drawing process went. We decided to change it up here, and then we had to adjust the lettering.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know. I always enjoy it. I mean, maybe that's why I got into making them, right? Like, I love the DC Comics Absolute editions that started showing all that stuff in the back. It's really cool. So,
you know, and I feel like sort of all of what we've said is a different way of saying like it may be a floppy, but there's enough story there to make an entire campaign around, no question.
I think that's a really nice way to put a bow on it. I'm glad you said that, because I think that does sum up what we were trying to say, and I think that's a solid takeaway. You know, it's nice for me thinking, okay, I can do it with less content. So.
Yeah. I mean, like, you know, people start with number ones all the time, and sometimes they move on. Sometimes they do have a plan to be just a single issue. I mean, there are Frank Martin. He's a perfect example of one-offs. Like, he does those single issues and move on all the time.
Yeah.
You know,
absolutely. Yeah. And he's one I've even wanted to, I've talked to him in the past about doing like even like a crossover thing, which I think is what after this fake news business, I think what I see myself doing next is I like the idea of crossover comic books to like start cross-pollinating audiences. And I always love team up books. And so he and I talk, because he does Modern Testament, right? So we talked about doing something like that with Magnificent. So yeah, I think that's a really good point. That's a really good point as well.
I've done some fun crossover art with Rob.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of our favorite things to do is when we're running together, we like to do, you know, throw our characters in together. Just, you know, like you said, everybody loves a good crossover, right? You know?
Yeah, it's fun. Really neat. All right. Well, guys, I really appreciate the advice. I think that was actually really helpful and also very encouraging. And I want to thank you guys very much for the thoughtful comments on that. Really.
You're very welcome.
You know, I just wanted to, sorry.
I actually wanted to go on a little bit more at length there.
Well, by all means.
Hold on. Lindsay and I have to duke it out.
Well, so I'm sort of stepping on my own toes here because I think that this is actually the question that I wanted to put to the group that I'm sort of now answering. So I still don't know what I'm going to
You have to come up with a new one then.
Yeah. but I heard like early in your question, you were talking about like just writing a bunch of random crap.
Right.
and having a hard time figuring out like how to position this genre wise in relation to other stuff that you've done. And I'm someone who does similar. Like I've published poetry, nonfiction, journalism, comics, graphic novels, and fiction. Wow. I just kind of write what I want to write. And it is hard to be not like a hard genre. This is what I do. This is what I always do. And, but I wanted to encourage you to try to get a little bit of like a zoom out on the work that you've done and find the common threads that do tie all of your work together. Because it may not be a genre, and you know the comics field is very genre heavy, but you do more than comics. So you know, look at everything that you've done, and it sounds to me like the thing that unifies all of it is that you like a thrill. You like getting people's heart rates up, you know? And
yeah, that's right. Anyone who's personal friends with me can attest to that too.
Right.
Anyone who's tried to lift pots and panels.
I'm getting a vibe. But I think that especially I'm also someone who tends to write longer stuff. I have a hard time writing very short pieces. But as someone who writes longer stuff, I feel like if you care enough about this 24-page short comic, this one-off, to put it out there on its own, that means to me that the story you're telling is just as meaty and just as good and will deliver just as much as all of the longer things that you've put out. And the people that have consumed the things that you've put out already know what they can expect from you and what they like about what you make. So like the common thread is you as a writer. And whether you're doing, you know, a Tom Clancy style or an Edgar Allan Poe style, they're coming for you.
They're coming for you.
They're coming for
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Watch out. But I don't know. This is like sort of.
No, that's wonderful. That's like the most empowering thing anyone's ever said to me. Like that's really awesome.
All right, Lindsay wins. I'm going to bury my comment.
I'm done.
And that's like the dream, right? Is like that you get enough folks who like you and the stuff you do that they'll keep coming back, you know. And I think especially with my hiatus and then switching form medium, you know, from comics to movies, I think I've struggled with. And then I had, frankly, COVID hit me pretty rough. That whole era, I was like kind of off social media. I just like couldn't even with that stuff. And now I'm like trying to get back into it and trying to build those relationships and honor those relationships with readers and with fans, some of whom are our friends and some of whom are family, some of whom are strangers, right? But still honoring the fan side of that relationship as someone who consumes what you do, and wanting to have faith in that and wanting to build that and nurture that and see that grow, you know, chasing that mythical, you know, 1,000 backers that will always back everything you do because they love you and they love your work, right? So that takes time to forge those kinds of relationships. So that was very encouraging, is to say, look, you know, on whoever's out there who likes what I do, on that rock I can build my church.
Well, but you also have the comics community too behind you. Like you're not just relying on backers, whether they be friend, family, or stranger. You can lean on us as well. One of the biggest tools in your tool bag is that you can pull out the pull quote, right? So that's like, for example, Lindsay gave me an amazing one, and I even like incorporated it into my pitch.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Like that, like I said, that was for Snowpaw issue 1. And you know, like you can do that. That's another thing that you should do for this is having pull quotes for, you know, pass it to people. You said it's already done, right? Well, you have a bunch of people in the community who could read it. Throw the best ones out there, you know, like
that's a really great suggestion. Yeah, I just did a pull quote for another.
You and your writing, as opposed to like just one project too. You can build up that brand that way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's a good point. I saw that recently. I saw some. You know what I was reading? I was reading a John Grisham novel. Actually, I was reading one of his less popular novels called The Litigators, which my sense is they didn't, you know, have as much fanfare. Yeah, it's a terrible title. It's a terrible title, and it's not his normal
title.
It sounds like a really bad Arnold Schwarzenegger movie.
The Litigator.
You've been limited. I can't even say it. You've been litigated.
Well, if there was anything that can make the code of federal civil procedure interesting, it would be Arnold Schwarzenegger's accent. But my point is, the dust jacket of the book, I noticed, only had quotes about Grisham, not about that book. And I don't know if it was a timing thing about its release, or maybe it was just not one of his better received books. But they didn't. Yeah. There was nothing. Oh, the Litigators is going to be the next Pelican Brief or whatever.
That was like pure marketing right there.
They knew what they were, and I enjoyed it. But I probably was his target audience, which was like a lawyer.
Stay tuned for his next riveting read, The Judiciary Branch. But okay, I'm gonna insert myself again here. For Penguin, I work on the mass market reprints of Tom Clancy novels. I literally was working on one this morning. Okay.
Oh, fantastic.
Tom Clancy is dead. He does not write any of the books that come out under the Tom Clancy heading anymore, but they all still start with the words Tom Clancy. And at least half of the front sales, which is, like the quotes when you are flipping through the beginning of the book, are all about how great Tom Clancy is. Even though the book is written by some other dude.
You're breaking hearts, Lindsay.
I'm just saying. Like,
Lindsay, what are you going to tell me? Santa Claus isn't real?
Alf is a puppet. Alf is a puppet. Nothing matters.
No, what I'm saying is, it's all about brand recognition. I mean, now granted, Tom Clancy wrote pretty much the same book several times before he passed, but I mean, it's building up that brand recognition and knowing that people are coming to you for what you have to offer. And I think that pull quotes are specifically really good for that.
Thank you. That's really
and could be really cool in an ash can as well.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm hearing is you all volunteered to do my pull quotes. Is what
Absolutely.
I'm hearing. Yeah.
Again, you have the community behind you.
Well, you guys really are a fantastic community, and the advice and encouragement is very well taken. And if you guys ever need pull quotes as well for whatever my name is worth, I'm sure there's 2 people who've heard of it. I'd be happy to give you a pull quote.
You got at least 4 right here.
Honestly, a good pull quote is good, even if it's from like Joe Smith. Like, it doesn't matter, like if it's giving relevant information about what's good about your work in a soundbite. It doesn't really matter who it's from. Like you can make up a name. It doesn't really matter.
At the risk of sounding like shamelessly self-promoting, which, we all always have the secondary ulterior motive. On my Name the Demon Kickstarter campaign, I put my favorite reviews of my films. So like Amazon, we got a pretty good number of reviews. And my favorite review was, I peed my pants. And I'm like, you're like, as long as it says something about the work. And I'm like, it says exactly
definitely says something.
It says it all right there. So,
all right. So I think, Camarlo, you got yourself some great stuff. I'm honestly I thought there was a lot of great points. Everybody did great. Lindsay, JL, poor JD hasn't said a word.
No, I'm fine. I think you guys covered it. You guys did a great job. I mean, I was just like,
fair. So yeah, let's, I think we got a good one here. Let's cap it. And then let's go with, all right. So JD or JL or Lindsay, which of you want to start first? You have a good,
you got to pick. Don't put this war on.
All right. Well, we'll go, like I said, we'll do the clockwise. That makes it easier. So JL, it's you first, sir. What do you have for us?
So, okay, one thing that we're like right now, we have Side Quests, which is our 14th comics anthology live on Kickstarter. And so we've been doing these for a minute now, but it is an anthology, and we do kind of have we have a theme. So Side Quests is the theme of this anthology, a single word, and each anthology, we've been doing that for several anthologies now. But really, what we're selling is this collection from Oneshi Press. It's Oneshi Press's next collection. And what we've been trying to build is a sense of faith in our curation style, right? It's, that we pick a certain type of stories. It's going to feel a certain way. You liked the last one. You want to get the next one. The difficulty there is it's a really slow grow of people who have stumbled upon it, and then they get it and they like it, and now they want the next one. And we are building that, and it is growing, but breaking past our current audience is difficult. Now, because it's an anthology, each person that contributes and has their work printed, they're going to bring their audience. They're going to get their aunts and uncles and cousins and siblings to back it, all that, right? So that does kind of help to grow it. But most of those people are there for that particular contributor and aren't necessarily going to come back the next one. Some of them will. But again, that's a very small, amount of growth with people that were like there to back their cousin Joey and then came back to the next one because they liked us so much, And to what you were saying about, starting something new, how do you build an audience for that? Well, every single one of our anthologies is something new, really. And it's every single time we have to build up excitement for it. And that's just so incredibly difficult. And I'm wondering if anyone, has advice on how we can continue to do what we're doing, but maybe some like strategic ideas that can help us grow better or get people excited about it more, or B, incorporate some pivot moving forward on structuring our themes in a way that are more, built on something pre-existing, or can somehow funnel power that's already, pre-existing without necessarily, I don't think we have any interest in being like, oh, it's like Indiana Jones meets Conan in this anthology. I don't necessarily want to be super limiting with the theme, because what we love about it is side quests. We get so many different, out of 160 submissions, they were all just mind-blowingly different and unique, and it was wonderful. And that's what's so wonderful about our anthologies, is they truly are just buffet that has everything from like dessert to appetizers to the main courses, and they're all different, and it's really fun, and we really like that. People who have read them really like that, and I don't want to lose that, but it's so difficult to market. So that's it. My question is, does anyone have advice on how we can better market this beast, or should we just give up?
Did you just
Can I jump in real quick?
Yes.
Yeah, all right. So see, I hate this format.
Yeah, no answers, JD, only questions.
Clarifying questions.
Yes, I know. Clarifying questions. So my question to you is, are you advertising this product book outside of the normal channels, right? Are you outside of, I don't want to give the answer, right? So are you literally like, we know where we all pretty much, we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, God knows where else, these various places that we all meet up and talk. But are you looking outside of those places to maybe find a newer audience? There you go. I have more to say, but they're all answers. And
Well, I can at least answer your clarifying question by saying, we do have a small but growing Discord community, and I am a member of quite a few other Discord communities. I'm always talking about whatever our upcoming and current projects are there. I'm also doing that on Twitch. I regularly work on, materials for whatever our upcoming and current projects are. I live stream it every Tuesday and Thursday. I make like a short ad and put that on YouTube and on Facebook and on Twitch and on Twitter and on Blue Sky. I'm on a lot of groups on Facebook, but I think that's and our newsletter. I mean, our newsletter is our backbone. But I think that's it. I don't know if there's like other less conventional things that I should be considering, but maybe that'll be your answer.
Section.
Yeah. So in my clarifying remarks, that's what we are doing.
Right.
So, Lindsay, you probably already this is partially, you're with him on this situation. So I'm assuming you don't have any clarifying questions.
I feel like I know the answers to any question I would ask.
Fair.
Maybe I don't.
But I'll
Okay. We'll skip Lindsay.
Carmelo, do you have any questions that you'd like to ask before I jump into my questions?
So many. So
ask them all.
With this. Last year in December, you did an anthology called Becoming, and you called it Becoming, the 11th comics anthology from Oneshi Press. Now, as near as I can tell from all of your campaigns, this is the first one where you tried to rely on your own name brand. Everything else was Tarmux, Cthulhu, Coffee Comic Cup. Tracy Queen was an NSFW comic book. You have a dark speculative novella from Dwayne. You said the genre, you said the type of book. Then you had Becoming, and that looks like you did, about $7,000 or so in your campaign from almost 160 backers, and you're doing now side quests almost 1 year later. You've got 110 backers so far. You're doing great. You've got 3,800 and counting. Okay. What I'm looking at is it looks like these other, I looked at like Dwayne, and you did far less with it than when you relied on your own brand.
So Dwayne was prose, and it's a completely different audience.
Okay. So
and
that
it was a short
totally
novella. So that we really did not know what we were doing there. That was like an experiment, but also because it's a prose novella, it was a lot cheaper to print. So we actually probably made more profit on that, ironically.
Right. The irony.
It's like we didn't have to pay for art or lettering or flatting or inking.
Sure.
The printing itself was cheaper, like the shipping was cheaper.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's weird.
I mean, I guess basically what I'm seeing here, and I want to know what the question is, do you feel? I'm seeing remarkable consistency amongst your campaigns when it's you and your brand. I'm looking at Destinations, for example, almost under 90 backers, $7,200, right? And then we've got Becoming, $6,800. Side Quest is trending toward $5,800, which I think you'll beat the trend. So do you find that's the case, that you've got that consistency and you feel plateaued there, or do you feel like it's an uphill battle every time you do it?
I think the feeling of it being an uphill battle is lessening just because now we have a sense of what's par for the course a little bit better. And a lot of that feeling of it being an uphill battle is anxiety and stress, right? But I still feel like even when we pull out the tried and true tricks of the trade, wow, that was quite some alliteration. Sorry. There is a feeling of plateau, like $7,000 is about what we can expect for an anthology. And with our co-op model, we're sharing whatever is past goal with all of our contributors. And I'd really love to be able to give people a lot more, because they're giving us their faith and their trust in their stories. And granted, they are getting their works published. They are getting contributor copies. They are getting wholesale copies. They are getting, at cost copies. And we're doing everything we can to promote them. And some of them are getting extra work out of it because of that, using this as portfolio pieces, etc. But I really would love to be able to start writing bigger checks for people. It just, supporting the community that supports us feels important, and I want to get past this plateau,
Okay, that's interesting. And if you had to tell me what you think the problem is, what would you say is your biggest hurdle to reaching new audience?
Objection. He's leading the witness.
He's litigating.
I think it might be that audience growth and attrition are kind of equal.
Equilibrium of attrition. Okay. And when you say audience attrition, what I'm hearing, I'm guessing, is email list, because social media, people don't typically unfollow a page. I mean, they might like stop you in their feed, but they're not going to like.
Well, and algorithms might stop showing.
The algorithms might stop showing them, right? But there's no way we would know those things, right? So you can see your email list go up and down, and you can see we just started the conversation with saying your backers are pretty consistent. Actually, it looks like the number anyway. So the question then is, right, if it's the attrition and the growth is balanced, what do you currently do to grow the list?
Every now and then I'll make posts about like free opt-in materials, like free anthology, free comic book templates, free, comic sampler, free issue ones, and just kind of do like spread across the internet, post everywhere that I can think of. And usually when I do that, we get a whole bunch of extra subscribes. In the past, we had even done some boosted posts on Facebook or advertised some posts on Facebook. And, when we have the budget for that, because usually those work better when you keep them running longer,
right,
with a significant amount of money per day, it does help to get us a nice growth in our list. But we just, a lot of times are scraping by and don't really have that extra capital to put into advertising necessarily. Right. I mean, if I had a surefire way that it was like putting, $500 in here will make you $5,000. Like, yes, I would do that until.
Of course,
I had
we all would.
We all would. Yeah. But, interesting. Okay. Yeah. Those are my questions, Your Honor.
Okay.
So all right, have you looked at other anthologies that have done like big numbers, like successful, like, obviously like we got Travis Gibb doing all of his Cthulhu Invades. You got Clay Adams doing his Nightmare Theaters. You have Tyler James, the master of Kickstarter, doing his other anthologies he's done, or even some of the other ones, kind of like John Eddingfield and Ryan Kroboff. They've done their anthologies as well, and they've all been successful in their own rights. Have you like kind of looked at any of those to see like how they've marketed it, how they where they're pushing, or are they going to specific groups, or just kind of like trying to take the idea, like as a community we all share what we do often. Sure. So have you kind of like scoped any of those out and asked anybody?
I don't think I've actually really asked like, hey, how are you doing this, to anybody, like point blank, to be honest. But I do, I often get this sense that the ones that do like gangbusters, as we'd say, are, often built on the back of a strong pre-existing IP that is in public domain that people already know they like.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just not what we're doing. We're trying to do something where people can get their own unique OCs out into the world and then retain them, creator-owned, comics.
And I think that too is what, like, so with Clay Adams with Nightmare Theater, there was just the theme was it was horror movie-esque stories, but they were all our own. Like, so I participated in number 2.
I'm actually not very familiar with that. I need to check that out.
Yeah, Clay, he's done 3 of them with David. I'm totally drawing a blank on his last name, and he's going to kill me, I'm sure. David Schrader. But they have 3 of them, and I participated in the second one. But the way that worked was the same, similar to how you do yours, is that everybody brings their own story, brings their own characters. They're able to, like for me, my 8-page short, I'm able to take that and reproduce it now any way I want to do, use those characters or whatever, that kind of thing.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So like, but it's like, again, the only cohesive theme was the only thread that tied everything together. There was no, and the 3 of them were very successful. And again, I think part of it is too that like, Clay has a decent following, with his books.
Sure.
As well as like David, being out in LA, I think he has a decent network as well. But once I think a lot of it too is relying a little bit more maybe. How much do you rely on your network of creators that are in the books? Like I know you mentioned that they kind of bring their own, but how much are they actually marketing?
So, I mean,
That's a huge question.
we have like a separate email tag just for our contributors. So we have like weekly emails that go out just to the contributors, trying to coach them on what they can do next to market it to their audience, and explaining that if all of our contributors are marketing to all of their audiences, this is going to do really well for everyone. And we're always giving out tips and tricks on marketing. But at the end of the day, some people
really commit, and
some people are like vampires, and the word marketing is their garlic. You know, like they just think marketing is evil, and it's like,
for real.
No, it's literally just trying to get what you love to people who like it. Like it's not bad, but some people just have real serious mental blocks on that, or some people are like troglodytes and have never used the internet before. I don't even know how they managed to submit to us. It's like, if you don't know how email works, how did you upload your submission to our website? Like, what are you doing?
So one of the things that we try to do is work with like a wide range of creators, so like just because you haven't published a big comic book before doesn't mean that you're not going to get into our anthology. If we really like your story, we really like your story, and we're going to do the best that we can for it. And then we're working also with people who are really experienced and know the whole drill, know exactly how it works. And we don't want to do the like, how many followers do you have on Instagram, before we let somebody in. But so we do always end up with like a very wide array of like some people who maybe are first timers, but they're so excited that they are like really, really promoting the hell out of it. And then sometimes you have people that have done it a million times and like really don't care and don't do anything to promote it. So you never really know what you're going to get until you're already promoting.
And I should say, we do have some really awesome contributors that like every day I'm seeing a new and interesting post from them about this anthology, and they're tagging us in it. And like, I'm like, wow, that person is doing the work, but it's always like, it's like a group class assignment. You can tell that one kid doing all the homework and everyone else is like, yeah, we're going to get an A. You know what I mean? Like, really, guys?
I had that problem on Pots and Panels. We had 86 creators, and if every one of 86 people could have just asked 10 people to,
just 10 people,
it would have been a 6-figure campaign. The math suggests
exactly.
And instead, I would put a Facebook post out, and it would have 37 shares, and 12 of them were me on my different pages and channels. And it's like, where the hell was everybody else? Which brings me to, if you don't mind, I have one more question for the question section, which is, can you explain to me the comp structure again? You share the money over the expenses, you share amongst the contributors. Is that equal? Is that by page? Is that, how do you?
It's by page. It's a percentage of the book that is your work. That's
okay. So pro rata, right? By page count over expenses. I did the same thing on Cellar Door. Okay. I know we're still doing
that. You mean you pay people?
That kicks in after goal. And then, because after goal the more that we sell, the more our expenses go up. So we also have a percentage for Ineshi's expenses.
Yeah, that makes sense. You should, if anything, you should also be charging a percentage for running the campaign, and not just your expenses. Like your time is an expense, and Kickstarter takes 5%. Credit card takes 5%. If you took 10% for doing the work of running the campaign, you should. I think I have. All right, so I'm sorry. I know we're still doing Q&A, so I'll leave it at that.
I think if does everybody clear?
I got one last question.
Yeah.
All right.
So here's the thing. I heard you recently say that people are putting in their OCs in there to help promote their books, right? To promote their characters. Now, my question is to you, are you encouraging that, right? Because the thing is I personally, I'm a selfish SOB. I I don't like, if you ask me to be in an anthology, I'd be like, maybe, talk to me in 6 months. I'm literally working on a lot of stuff. If you said, could you do a short story with Oswald in it? Then I'd be like, give me a couple weeks, buddy. I'll get back to you.
Okay.
You understand? So that's where, and then the thing is with something like with my character Oswald, I have a following. It's not huge, you understand? Okay. But I could probably tell, my guys and say, okay, look, I'm gonna have a 4-page whatever in this anthology, and I might get you 5, 6, 7, 10 people, who knows? You understand, to buy the book. So because they're not really gonna buy it for anything else but Oswald, but hopefully they'll discover a bunch of other creators in there that they're gonna enjoy as well. You understand?
So to answer the clarifying question, I think somewhere in there have that maybe written, but I don't think we've been leading with that. And perhaps we're burying the lead. Maybe that's really appealing to both the contributors, as well as their audience. That might be a strong point.
We have had a lot of people's other OCs come in and do, a story for one of our anthologies. But I don't think
we've been leading with it.
It's a good point.
And that's actually pretty cool, a short to just introduce your character to a new audience in our anthology. And you get to keep it, and you can reprint it in your own thing after 6 months from our publication. Exactly. It's not a bad thing to lead
Very
with.
Very good
as far as
question. Wink.
Yeah. The answer is in the question. Oh,
I mean, that's a good segue. I think if everybody is good, we can move into the answer stage. Carmelo, do you have anything for them?
Yeah, I have a couple things done. So my first thought is, I think you answered your own question, is that paid advertising to promote your lead magnet is going to be the most efficient way to grow your list. And that's the most direct way to solve the problem you identified, which is that attrition is balanced with acquisition at this point. And acquisition right now is not scalable. It's you spamming the internet as best you can, trying to find places to post. That's a lot of work on you. It's admirable. It's exhausting. And that's my biggest problem, is trying to keep up with the content needs to remain relevant. And you'll always have a ceiling there. So you've mentioned, cash flow is a problem. First of all, I don't know what you define as a significant budget, but $5 or $10 a day, could get the job done, especially over time. And our godfather, Tyler, always likes to say, don't, have 20 different lead magnets. Find one that works and put your weight behind the one. And you can always change it up later. Maybe a year later, you're like, okay, it's gone as far as it's going to go. Let's find new people. But you have plenty of content to choose from. So that's not an issue, right? So you are always going to have that ceiling until you can do that. Maybe to solve the budget problem, because I'm not going to just throw it at you and say, there's your answer, figure it out, is price that into your next campaign. As far as your expenses go, figure out between now and your next, 3 months, 6 months before your next campaign, figure out $5 a day and price that in as a marketing expense, because it's building up.
And it's a write-off.
Exactly. It's deductible. So I think that's my first point. Before I move on to my second, which is a little bit more complicated, do you have any questions about my thought process there, or anything you want to challenge?
No, that sounds absolutely reasonable. Yeah.
And again, it's just based off what you told us, right? We only know what you told us in the last 7 minutes or so. And so it sounds to me like that's also at the forefront of your mind, right? You inceptioned that into my head with your answers. So I think we all know that this is the thing, right? Which brings me to the second point, which is the same, because I had the same problem on Pots and Panels. And the problem is a lack of incentives. Okay. It's economics. For every activity level, there is a cost and a benefit. When the cost outweighs the benefit, you don't act. And when the benefit outweighs the cost, you act, period. All of your creators are equally incentivized. None of them are incentivized to do a better job than anybody else or do more work than anybody else. The incentives are equal across the board. And so why should I share anything? Maybe even in my mind, I'm not thinking straight. I'm thinking that this is why should I use my audience? I want my audience to back my thing where I get 100% of it. Why should I share my audience? I'll contribute to your anthology, but I don't want to, you know, to put, they don't see it as, it's not a zero-sum game. And I believe in creative work. Just because you read my comic doesn't mean you're not going to read Rob's. You know, you might love Cellar Door and Nightwolf. Why wouldn't those? Why would they be mutually exclusive? Right? You might. Well, people only have so many dollars to spend. Well, yeah, like in a month or in a period, but you know, you can buy my book later or whatever. So I mean, that's why we share each other's campaigns, because everyone here gets it. We all get rising tide raises all ships, right?
Right.
But not everyone does. So they're thinking, you know what? I'm going to free ride. Is the word. I'm going to free ride off everyone else in this anthology. Yeah. And you have tools. And part of the problem with Pots and Panels is, and I knew this was going to be the problem, but they weren't my relationships. Other people in the book brought especially some of the bigger name creators. A lot of people in that book did a great job promoting it. And a lot of those people didn't do shit the entire time. And I won't name names, so I don't mind saying it. But a lot of those folks are not coming back. I will never do another anthology with them. You can track these with Kickstarter's referral code links that you can create. You can require it as part of your contract with them. You could say, look, you'll participate in the profits if you perform X, Y, and Z. And right now your deal with them is just give us the pages, give us the book, and you'll get a book. Now it's give us your book, and you're going to share this post and this post and this post, and you're going to do these many, whatever, as detailed or as not as you want. You know, if you could incentivize it as you get a percentage of what you bring in. And I know that's a pain in the ass to track, but that's why Kick Booster exists. Is there's tools for that will automatically track it and distribute the cash for you. So you can be incentivizing the creators and say, look, if you want a piece of the pie, you've got to do this bare minimum. And if you want a bigger piece of the pie, you got to do X, Y, and Z. You can do anything you want, and we'll cut you in that way.
And you could also gamify that too. Like you can make it a game and say, we got our weekly high score, you know.
Yeah. I like it, Rob.
You get a car. You get a car.
Yeah, you'd have to use like something like Kick Booster to figure that out though, right? Because Kick Booster would tell you who's bringing in what percentage.
Well, they kind of allocate what they brought in, and they get like whatever percentage
you set it.
Yeah, you set the percentage.
Kick Booster does it for you automatically. You don't need Kick Booster. You can do it with Kickstarter's referral codes, but it's just manual and a pain in the ass. And then another thing you've got to do, Kick Booster takes a small fee, or they charge a small fee or whatever, but it may well be worth it for the time.
But everything does, you know.
Everything does. And you know, I was never successful in business until I started delegating. Yeah.
I feel like we tried Kick Booster once, and it was like, but it wasn't on an anthology. It was like we gave a couple of people codes to just be like, hey, if you want to promote this, you can get some money out of it.
Oh yeah,
and it didn't really work out that well. Right. But maybe with an anthology with contributors, that might be
that does make a lot more sense.
Yeah, it might be more
like if
that's how you get paid,
right.
Right. Like I would do an anthology in a heartbeat to promote my original character, to get my name out there. If I knew I might have some access to the being able to do a backer update for my future projects, things that might incentivize me. But then if you also told me, oh yeah, and then you also get X% of whatever you bring in, you know, then I would, you know, bring the full weight of my email lists and my social media campaigns to do it, because I'd be financially incentivized to do so. So I think people who contribute to your book should get nothing if they're not contributing to the sharing a little bit. I mean, for some of these folks, it's as simple as I did the ad and I need you to like, comment, and share the ad so that the organic does better, so that the cost per click goes down. At the bare fucking minimum, sorry guys, you got to be able to do at least that for me on our hero post, on our hero ad that says the campaign is live. If you, as far as I'm concerned, if you don't do that, you don't deserve shit from the campaign. So maybe you've got that floor, right? Do this and then you're in and you'll be cut in pro rata. And then you can even go higher by doing all these other things. The gamifying it is genius, because that's people love that.
It is. Yeah. I will, you know, I might split the difference in there and still have some inherent reward on top of gamifying it. Because I do also understand some people have, you know, neurological conditions that make socializing difficult for them. Like we have creators with ASD and creators with ADHD and creators with OCD and creators with, dyslexia and other needs that make it difficult. And I don't want to punish them for rising above a challenge to be part of our anthology.
Well, you don't have to punish them, right?
That's
different.
It's just like I want there to be, everyone gets something cool, but if you're really championing this, you get extra.
Right, exactly. That's, you have your baseline, right? So maybe make the baseline just a little lower than you usually do, because then you can add that extra incentive.
Exactly. That's what I meant by split the difference. So I might be like, yes, I should incentivize it. I also don't want to cut anyone out completely. Where do I find that balance? And I guess looking into what kind of percentages I can set on Kickbooster might be a good start. I mean, you said you could just set it to whatever you want, right? I only used it once and it was years ago.
Yeah, last time I used it, and I did pretty well off of it actually. I set the percentage, and I don't remember that there were any limits on what percentage I could set.
I mean, I'm sure you could probably go up higher, but then at that point you'll be bankrupt.
Yeah, you don't want to lose for winning. That's never.
No, you don't. You got to remember, you're already giving 10% of everything that comes in to Kickstarter. You're giving 2%.
Everyone takes a percentage along the way. There's Stripe takes a percentage, Kickstarter takes a percentage, the post office takes a percentage.
If you use BackerKit, they take a percentage.
Yeah, everybody takes.
Tape dispenser takes a percentage.
Yeah, it's true. But remember, paying the referral fees is also tax write-off. So.
Oh.
Yeah, it's not income to you then. That's
that and what you're paying the creators too. That's also a write-off.
You should not be paying taxes on any of that. That's And I guess just to wrap my thought up, and then I promise I'll stop talking.
Keep talking.
I understand wanting to be accommodating to people with unusual circumstances or particular circumstances, particularly neurodivergent people. I totally get it. Again, I joked at the beginning of this, but I have mania myself, which is the only thing that explains my abilities. And I get it. Right. But they're also, you're running a business, and you can always make case by case exceptions. You can always have a special arrangement with somebody. You can do that. And I don't think it's unreasonable. I don't think it's crazy to set some bare minimum expectations for participation. And I'm not asking you to go door to door and talk to strangers in person and pitch them your Kickstarter. On a scale of nothing to that, that's awful for.
Well, there goes my plans.
The nice thing about that is so as an example, kind of playing off of that, for my son's basketball team, they gave us an opt-out. So we had to do either fundraising or write $100 check. And I went,
$100 check.
You're not doing fundraising is so worth $100.
Right? I'm like, yes, $100. Just that was great.
That's actually
I don't hate that idea.
Okay.
I don't
an
hate
option.
That idea.
All right, I'm gonna think about what kind of options there could be for do you want to do the Kickbooster thing, or
if no, come to our house and make us a pizza.
If no, go door to door and get 10 signups,
Well, one thing everybody who contributes to your campaign should be doing that requires nothing of them from their mental energy or mental health is every single one of them should back the campaign for $1 in the first 5 minutes you launch it. And that, again, didn't happen with Pots and Panels.
Fun fact about that, Tyler did that with his last anthology.
Yep.
If they wanted to get their books, their comped books, they had to back the campaign for at least $1 so that he could get their address.
That makes so much sense. Oh my God. It is so hard to get an address out of some people.
So there you go. If they want to get their books, they have to back the campaign at least $1 to then be incentivized to get their book.
I had some art in there. That was the Oxymoron book you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Again, leaning on the other creators who've done it.
Exactly. It's a smart man who learns from his mistakes. It's a wise man who learns from other people's mistakes.
Fair.
Or woman, sorry.
JD, do you have anything you've been relatively.
Well, all right. So I asked two questions, the A and the B. I think I answered the B by asking it. Right.
You can reiterate though. Feel free. I mean,
so basically, to reiterate, so one of the things, like I said, I'm fairly selfish. So it's especially when it comes down to the creative part of this. It's like, I work on several projects, the Oswald Chronicles, Tall Tales, whatever, and I'm usually hyper focused on those things. And I've been asked to join a number of anthologies, and I know it's always like maybe in 2 years, you know, because I'm literally putting out. You can ask Rob. I put out a campaign every few weeks, and I'm like, boom, 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 constantly.
Yeah, you launched one today, and I wasn't shocked. I'm like,
right.
So, I was like, wait, I thought he was already live.
Yeah. So it just runs like that, and I'm constantly in a state of writing, editing, lettering, rewriting, relettering, re-editing, and it's just over and over and over again. So if you ask me to get off my hamster wheel, it has to be worth my while.
Yeah.
Right. So it has to be like, well, could you do, you're doing, let's say you're doing some fantasy book, whatever it is, and you say, could you write a fantasy thing with Oswald in it for whatever? And I'd be like, give me 2 weeks. And then I would just, get back to you with that. So I think like with someone like Rob, who also has, his OC, where his character is very well known, right? And, with his IP, he can bring it in there. You just say, do a 3-page story with Snowpaw in it, right? So then,
all 8.
Well, there you go. So, and then, he goes to the audience. He says, yeah, if you want to read this original Snowpaw story, you have to go buy this anthology. Right.
I mean, that's the thing too, is like I could easily do that with Snowpaw.
Right.
It's Nightwolf, however, like that for me is harder because like he's kind of like in his like continuing. Right. If I were to write something off, it would be like almost like a spoiler. Whereas like Snowpaw, I have like 200 years that I could just plop. Okay, right, well, maybe this is 50 years in. This is 100 years in.
Listen to what you just said. You said it'd be a little bit harder. Work harder.
Yeah, work harder than
I wouldn't say no to Snowpaw.
But isn't that why you made Snowpaw? Like the genius there was you built up this IP that had a built-in following, and then you go do this spinoff, and it's like now you've got the flexibility of the spinoff with the recognizability of the main brand.
And I still did 2 different stories for these anthologies that I was in that had nothing to do with my stuff.
Right. Well,
they were creator owned, like you kept the rights to them, but you just decided not to do your
own? The one for Nightmare Theater, yes. That actually I do plan on tying that into a Nightwolf story later on. I ended up actually thinking about that further and kind of like, oh, I'm actually going to use one of my celestial beings and kind of tied that in. Because at first we're kind of going off on a tangent, but I didn't have a story. Like when Clay first asked me to do his first one, I didn't have a story, and and at the time I think I only had Nightwolf. I didn't have Snowpaw. And then when I actually later on, like a couple months later, I had a legit nightmare about my daughter. And so I took that story, like I immediately woke up with tears in my eyes and started like texting myself, like the basic gist of what happened. And then the next day I sent it to Clay and he's like, oh shit, that's amazing. He's like, actually, like the one thing is like, we have like, there was a similar thing with like Witch Coven that he had already done. So I turned it into a death goddess instead. So it kind of like, I just made it a quick
tweak.
Yeah. And that's the death goddess is what tied it into my Lone Wolf Comics universe. Whereas like with Travis's, I did the Cthulhu Invades Wonderland, and it was basically he's like, all right, you do the Bandersnatch and a Shoggoth. And I was like, all right, well, that's easy enough.
Yeah. We worked on one for Neverland, Cthulhu Invades Neverland. Mm-hmm. That was fun.
Yeah. So like, yeah, so those aren't technically my characters, but I only did a 4-page short, which he thought that I would do well with the Bandersnatch, considering it was basically a wild beast fighting. Right. Yeah. So
that brand you got there, man.
I brought my Nightwolf team for that. So whereas like with Nightmare Theater, I had a whole different art. Actually, the artist was one of my guitarists in my band that we went to college.
Oh, that's awesome.
Together. So
you're in a band? What?
I was a lead singer in a band.
What?
Matter of fact, if you ever listen to
right
the
now?
Tracks, what's that?
Are you going to sing for us right now?
No, but if you ever listen to the backtracks of my Nightwolf videos, that's one of my songs.
Oh, that's awesome. All right, I'm going to have to listen for that. Okay.
Clever. Something you own the rights to. The lawyer in me is pleased. Well done.
Anyway, so we kind of went off on a way tangent. JD, did you finish your thought? Or
that was one.
That was one.
And one, yes.
The other one was thinking outside the box as far as advertising for your book and trying to get it to different audiences.
Oh yeah.
So with that, I mean, because this is something I run. I have a different, I run with a certain crew, and we think about this stuff all the time because we're trying to get into the direct market, and we're trying to find new and different ways to incentivize that market, or just to make it more aware of our stuff, so that we can get them into stores to buy our IPs and buy our books or whatever. One of the things I've been thinking about that you can look into is every place I've ever been to. I live in New York City. There are tons of local newspapers, right? I mean, it's one of those things where they're constantly looking for content. Okay, if you have a town that you live near and there's maybe 100,000 people, you probably have a local newspaper that you don't even know about, right?
You you
could probably go find them. What?
What is a newspaper?
Newspaper. So you mean what they used to wear on their way to school, uphill both ways on their feet?
Yeah, well, stuff it in their jackets to keep warm.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you go to one of them and you maybe introduce yourselves and talk to them, you might be able to get an article written about yourself. You might be able to have, if you have like a one-page story, right, that you might be able to have them insert it. Especially if it's depending on the type of paper, type of people, maybe they like horror, maybe they like science fiction, maybe they like something a little bit more wholesome, who knows? So you just find what they enjoy and you try to, find that one story you maybe have in there that you can put into their paper. And then, and then on the little sides, you can put in a, website or maybe a QR code, or in that way you get a different audience. Right. The other thing is I know Lindsay's part of Penguin Putnam, so it's like libraries are still a thing, right, for some people. And one of the things we've been doing is we've been going to libraries and we've been dropping off little trading cards with QR codes on.
Yeah,
you understand? So people they go in and say, oh, what's this? And I like trading cards opposed to bookmarks, because trading cards you collect, and sometimes I'll have people I've had people randomly buy my trading cards. It's weird at conventions, so they can use it in like Magic the Gathering. It's very strange.
That's awesome.
They just see the image and they're like, oh yeah, and then I don't know, they make their own stats. I don't know. They do something crazy.
The magic fluffy mouse does this.
Yes. And so that's the thing. So yeah, that's what I'm saying, is like trying to find more unconventional ways of trying to find a new audience. Those are the things we're looking into, and there's other stuff brewing. So we'll see how that stuff pans out.
Well, if there's any way we can help, let us know.
Yeah.
All right, I will.
That goes for everyone here.
Yeah.
Same.
What a community! I love this group. Fantastic.
So, JL, did that answer? Do you think? Or
yeah, I think I have several cool, inspiring notions brewing from that. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate that.
Very good. Yeah. Lindsay, now what do you have for us?
So I've been mulling over a few different questions, but I think the one that I'm gonna come back to is actually sort of full circle what Carmelo started out with.
Nice.
Like, so we have Rob here, who is like, the king of knowing your niche, right? Knowing your audience, branding yourself, and doing that really hard and getting really good at it. But then we have like me and Carmelo, who like to do different things. JL, I got fuzzy.
You did. You got real fuzzy.
You did fuzzy.
Okay, yeah. So this is me trying to define myself and getting fuzzy. But JL also does this.
I get fuzzy too.
We write our own stories, and they go across a whole bunch of different genres and media types. And I don't know exactly how to phrase the question, because basically it's like, what are some tips that people in this group have for trying to walk across those lines? Because I don't want, personally, like the way that I write is the person that gave Carmelo the advice of like, it's all about you, friend, you know, and I believe that is possible, but it's also really freaking hard. So I think I just kind of want to pick people's brains about, like, I write, you know, these sort of, they're speculative fiction novellas. They're weird. They're not horror. They're not sci-fi. They're some sort of weird in between thing, right? And then I have a not safe for work comic that is like feminist and actiony and sort of sci-fi. And then there's one about dogs that are vigilantes. I mean, it is kind of all over the place. What are people's thoughts on how I can convince people that, like, I am a writer worth following, even though I do all these different things? Or should I not do that? Should I pick a genre? Tell me. Give me your wisdom.
So who has questions before we jump in? Because I know JD's got a lot to say about this, because he does cross a lot of boundaries.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess the most basic question is, when you're pitching yourself, right? Okay. So obviously let's say you're do you do conventions?
On a limited basis. We live in Montana, so it's really hard to get to conventions, but we do the ones that we can.
MISCON here in town is great.
Yeah, because usually a convention is sometimes the best place to test those things, right? So if you're gonna do a wide variety of like genres, right? Are you selling the book, or are you selling Lindsay? Right? Because in the end, right, and I'm going to use an example, and I know he's not popular at the moment, but before everything occurred, Neil Gaiman was a name where if you just most people heard his name, it didn't matter what it was, you went and bought it, right? Alan Moore, similar, right? You don't really think, you know, oh, is he like doing doing this? No, you just hear Alan Moore, and you're like, oh, it's Alan Moore, right? Stephen King, same thing.
Yeah.
You don't think, you know, is it The Shining? Is it Cujo? Whatever. You just think
Tom Clancy.
Tom Clancy. I was just going to say that. Even though he's dead, I'm getting his next book.
I gotta interject for a second, JD, with all due respect and all the love in my heart, because this is a conversation amongst interested minds. We're all just trying to reach some kind of truth here. You just gave me two examples of people that disprove your point. Stephen King. As soon as you said Stephen King, what did JL say? He said, "Oh yeah, Cujo, The Shining, right?" Like, or you just say,
"What do you think horror?" Okay,
horror, right? Stephen King. Someone named something for me. He wrote that wasn't horror. Go ahead.
Oh, well,
Stand By Me.
It was a comedy.
All right, Stand By Me. That's good, right? How many more like that? Like how many It's and Carries and Firestarters can I name for every Stand By Me you can name? He eventually pulls a Chasing Amy like everybody.
Dark Tower.
I want to Well, even Dark Tower's weird and scary and ties in all of his stuff, right?
Well,
like,
true, but there's a lot of Western. Like, when you get into like The Gunslinger, there's a lot of Western.
He wrapped it all in a Western, right? But he's still referencing all of his weird cosmic.
Yeah, Desperation was a Western too.
All right, so he like maybe I stand correct. Maybe Stephen King is not the horror king.
But if you think about it, though, like
anyone really taking that position?
Horror kind of changed too, because he's got sci-fi horror, he's got vampire horror, he's got alien clown horror, dimensional demon. I don't know what it is.
Eventually, every one of us wants to do a Chasing Amy and get away from the dick jokes we're known for and do something profound, which is why that's my favorite Kevin Smith movie, because
that's a classic reference,
right? And Stephen
okay,
King
but he just traded dick jokes for vagina jokes. So like,
is that like changing vampire horror for zombie horror? I mean, it's one kind of genital for another. the point is, like, the guy built a brand first, and then he was able to go off the reservation, right? And like at this point, if Rob wanted to do vampires, he might get away with it because
I do vampires. They're
I mean, well, yeah, but Nightwolf is like that's the
like a vampire focused series.
If you wanted to do a vampire spin-off, right, you could do a vampire.
Related enough,
right? You could do that, or you could go even further and you could do something even that has nothing to do with any of that.
I mean, I do have 3 other titles that I have in the wind that I've been wanting to do, but Jason, I'm very limited on my time, so I focus. I hyper focus to get something done.
Now we're getting to my point, which is I think you building the brand first, and then you can go and do all the different kinds of genres you want to do. And Rob nailed it because he's actually, I don't know if he even knows what he's done, but there's a lot of if you want to build that brand and you want that brand to be you and not a genre, then you need to build like a cult around yourself. And Rob has built a cult.
Come on, right? Lindsay, build a cult.
If you guys read the 48 Laws of Power,
L. Ron Hubbard did it.
Right, L. Ron Hubbard did it.
Oh boy.
Oh.
You know, but the thing is to counter what you're saying, Carmelo, is like, you know, I mentioned a bunch of people who are popular today, right? Because these are individuals that we know today. I'm a little bit older, right? Sure. So, you know, if I mention someone like Roger Zelazny, or if I mention someone like Isaac Asimov, right? And you can say Isaac Asimov is primarily known for science fiction, but he's also written a book in every. When we had to do a disciple system, he's written one book in every category of it.
Did he really?
Yes.
That's pretty cool.
I love Asimov.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, so he's written varied things. He may not be as popular in some as some of the others. Same thing goes with Stephen King. You understand? But I think in the end, what we're looking for is people want to know, is Lindsay, myself, yourself, Rob, you know, are we good writers? Are people willing to invest their time into our writing, right? In the end, right. I mean, yeah, you can build a brand on saying, oh yeah, you know, I'm doing horror primarily, but do you want to be pigeonholed? Because that's what happens, right? You're gonna pigeonhole yourself, right? And you're gonna be like, well, you know, Arthur, you know, artist XYZ is doing horror. Now they're doing a fantasy thing. I don't want to read fantasy from them.
Which brings a good point, because like you would think that 100% of my audience carries over from Nightwolf to Snowpaw. That is not. Yeah. It's about 50-50. Yeah. Because one is modern horror, the other one's a little bit more fantasy, and it's time period piece. So that's the other thing, you know. Yes, werewolves tie that together, but they're really technically different genres.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that I've found, you know, like even in our list of Kickstarters, is that, you know, one audience is never going to be the same as an audience for another thing. Even if you're sticking within the same, you know, genre, or like I did a novella after I've been doing comics for a long time, and it did have a much smaller audience. I expected that. I understand that. But it is, yeah, I think the pigeonhole terrifies me. Because I honestly, the way that I got my name out there originally as a writer was writing reviews of porn movies. Literally, that's what I did. I fell into it sort of by accident. I needed a job. That was the first job that presented itself. So I started doing it.
Then she became famous.
I was like, this is actually like, I want to know more about this industry. This is interesting to me. So I started doing like journalism from sort of like a sociological perspective. Like, who are these people? I started interviewing people. I started going to conventions. I got known for writing about the porn industry, which is fascinating. Don't get me wrong.
But you don't want.
But after like 10 years of that, I was like, okay, I want to do something else now. And so I cut my teeth doing journalism, which has served me very well as a writer. I know how to cut paragraphs out without even worrying about it. But I'm not interested in that anymore. I did that. I'm interested in moving on to the next thing. And I do have a Not Safe for Work comic based on that work that I did.
Tracy Queen.
But I'm like, I want to do other stuff. And the idea of getting pigeonholed into only doing not safe for work, sex-based stuff bores the absolute daylights out of me. And I don't want that to be my creative life moving forward. So I think I want to be able to not necessarily do a full pivot every time that I try something different, but at the same time, I want to have the freedom to write about the things that are interesting me at that time without, doing the Stephen King and always being the horror guy.
I do have some stuff to say, but I don't know if we've actually gotten past the question section. Are we?
No, I'm just talking.
Are we on to the?
Are we still doing questions?
Yeah, I think we had the one main question, and that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we could move on to.
I think this one's
JD successfully destroyed the format. Well done.
Yeah, but this is kind of like a spin-off of your question, so I feel like we've kind of we know what is the actual.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll just jump straight into our comments and answers. And kind of the play off of what JD was asking, whether you're marketing yourself or your brand or whatever, most of the time you are marketing Onishi Press, right?
Yeah.
So when you're doing it, like for me, obviously I go to Kickstarter as myself, but I'm still Lone Wolf Comics. So I have my logo everywhere, but on my Kickstarter page, it's me. I'm talking about it, I'm using my name. Hey, I'm the creator and writer and the founder of, where I say I am Lone Wolf Comics, like Iron Man, right? So I'm basically like Iron Man and Tony Stark, but not as
I am Iron Man,
right? Well, exactly. That's so that half the time that's where I go, right? When I say that, I'm like I am Lone Wolf Comics. But I carry the brand recognition everywhere I go. I never am doing anything without this hat. One, because it covers my bald spot and makes me look younger. And two, the brand recognition, I go to cons. I have my logos are on everything. I mean, I'm like, you get a logo. Like in general, but I'm still introducing myself at the cons. Like, hey, I'm Rob Malteri. My brand even on Kickstarter is Rob Malteri is the main Kickstarter account. My name is slapped everywhere. I don't know if it's because I have a complex because my dad's also Rob Malteri, but he may be a local hero, but I got farther than him.
Gotta outride the Rob.
Malteri.
Which is funny because people think when my dad likes it and comments on my stuff, they think it's me, and I'm like, different picture.
High-fiving yourself in public.
Right? Huh? Yeah, I'm like, hello.
Hey, me. It's so awesome being me.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I'm like, thanks, Dad. No, but again, you want to and Travis Gibb has a similar issue when it comes to this, because he has Orange Cone Productions is his main, production company. But he wants to market himself because he wants to one day do a story for Marvel, do a story for DC. Like he wants to be himself writing, he wants to be in that. So he's kind of like, okay, well, what do I promote more, my company or me? And I'm like, I've told him, I think actually this was kind of a similar thing he had in his hot seat when he came on. I was like, well, you're already putting yourself out there. You're doing. He has several different books that he's doing for other indie publishers. Maybe that's something for you to think about, not just putting it under Onishi Press, doing something for another company. Doing a couple of different things. All right.
Are you offering Lindsay a job?
I mean, I'm always looking for Nightwolf. Whenever I get my collected editions, I have guest writers. So. Just saying.
I'll have my people call your people.
You're right. Fair enough. But my point is,
an illustrator.
Hey, this is my hot seat.
Sorry.
Wow, now we're just tipping out. But you see, my point though is you want to put your name out there. Yeah. Well, the best way to do it is to put it in multiple places.
Right.
Play in different sandboxes. Right. So and write what you want. And the idea, what's nice about especially with indie creators, you can make yourself a decent deal with if you want to write your own story but put it under somebody's banner, that you keep all the IP rights. They just basically then just have the production rights so that they recoup their cost, or you do a partnership kind of thing, or however you want to work that out. Yeah. But and Travis would be a good one to talk to because he's got Band of Bards. He's got he did have Scout, but that's a different story. Yeah. Aside from that mess, but he has like several publishing things. He's under mine. Like he's done 2 stories in volume 1. He did one in volume 1 and volume 2 of Nightwolf. And matter of fact, he's actually wrote a whole script that I still have to read. Travis, if you're watching, I do owe you that. That based off those same characters, like he actually pitched a mini series, that we're talking about publishing under Lone Wolf Comics. So that's getting your name out there, in forefront when you're writing your stories that you want to write. Helps you to build your brand because you are not just selling your story, you are selling yourself.
Okay.
Well, I mean,
fun.
Today, right? You were working on a story for Archetypes, for, Geek Collective.
Yeah.
I mean,
they came to me and asked though.
But maybe
this sounds like a lot of initiative.
Yeah.
Look, it's just like when you come up, when you're coming.
Right, everybody, if you're watching, ask Lindsay for work.
But you think about it though, like if you want to do a specific story, and you think it fits well under a specific publisher like Band of Bards or Orange Cone Productions or Dreamweaver Press or whoever, right? If you think it fits under there, you're already doing all the work to go to Kickstarter with it, right? You're putting the elevator pitch together. You have all of the artwork and the pre-prep work. Just have that ready in a packet, like in just a PDF, and send it off to somebody and submit it. Be like, hey, are you interested in doing this? And then go from there. Just and you know what? Just send it to a bunch of different ones if you feel like there's multiple publishers that might be interested in it. And the first one that gives you the best offer.
Yeah. Off I go. Yeah, I can do that.
Build the cult of Lindsay G.
For real. Yeah. I'm not much of a cult leader, but I can work on it.
Yeah. The only thing I can add to that is one time I sat next to a gentleman at a convention. Unfortunately, I'm blanking on his name. He was an author. He had done some comics, but he was primarily an author, and he had contributed to dozens and dozens of anthologies, and he had them spread all over his table.
Yeah.
Right. And these were from various presses, some very large, some very small. And he would sit there, and this guy was killing it. He was like, hey, you, what do you like? You like fantasy, science fiction, horror? I got it. Come here. Zombie?
I got all the drugs.
Seriously.
I got your uppers, I got your downers, I got your poppers.
Yes. He was there. I was like,
for real.
He crushed us all weekend. It was fun. Just watching him and the way he did it. And he was an older gentleman. I mean, like, he was probably in the 70s. Yeah. And he was just there selling book after book. I mean, just killing it. And I was just like, wow. And that's where my thing comes from is like, spread yourself far and wide if you can. You understand? Like, I'm hyper-focused as it is. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, to get to Carmelo's point, I'm the one doing the opposite of my own advice. So, but
same.
Yeah, me too.
Like, all of it works. You understand? But it just depends on what works for you. And that's going to be the thing. Especially if you're spreading yourself all over in these different places, you might want to try to like Rob said, get into different anthologies, get into different publishers.
Yeah.
Because that'll help spread your name around. Because just like with Jal saying about his current campaign, his current book, right? You have a certain funnel that you're leading down, and you're not pivoting. But by going with a different publisher, they're going to be like, well, your funnel's over there, my funnel's over here. So maybe you'll discover a new path.
Right. Yeah.
So.
I have one thing I'd like to add, which is, Lindsay, you if I heard the issue correctly, is similar to my own, which is how is that you want to do all of these different things and work in all these different, playing all these different sandboxes. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized there's no problem with that. You are already doing it, right? The issue is that you want to build a following doing that you want to earn a living doing that you want to, what else? Because there's nothing to stop you from writing whatever you want to write. You can do it. I'm doing it. We're doing it, right? You're already doing it. What's the actual issue, right? Is it I want to be able to write different genres and different mediums and have a big audience that follows me from one to the next? Because that's not what you said. What you said was just, I want to be able to write in all these different things. And there's nothing stopping you from doing that until we best understand whatever's missing. Then we can figure out what advice to give, because the advice right now is just do exactly what you're doing. You're already
and that's what I want to do. No.
whereas if you go into different publishers, though, you're going to their audience and you're collecting.
Right. If that's the goal, is I want to write in all these different genres and all these different mediums as I feel like it, as it pleases me, and have an audience that follows me from one to the next.
Yeah.
Now that's an issue. That's where like Rob's advice answers that question, right?
Yeah.
That just wasn't
a little bit.
and that just wasn't, and JD's advice answers that question. But that wasn't what we asked, right? That's not what you asked.
Yeah, I was kind of vague about it. Honestly, I didn't have that pointed of a question. I kind of wanted to hear what people had to say about the idea of writing across genres.
Yeah, and I'm not criticizing the question. What all I mean to say is there actually is no problem until we add that second component. What,
like if there's a
right? Yeah. What else is there you want? Is it I want to make a living on just this? I want to quit the day job and just write. And okay, then that's a separate. Then we can talk about what that is. And
that's like at least a 5-step plan.
Well, right. So, and I'm not saying we could answer all of these different variations today, but my point is just that and this is why we have these masterminds, right? Is because refining the question is as important as getting to the answer. And sometimes refining the question gives you
the question.
Yeah. Right.
I think actually that's kind of where I'm at. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I would think about. And that's what I'm going to take away from this conversation, because I've learned from your question now. And I'm going to walk away and say to myself, what is it I want that I don't already have? Because I already wrote in different genres. So until you know the other thing that you want, then we can get to it.
Yeah. That's very helpful. Thank you for pointing that out.
Good. Thank you. I owed you for that nice thing you said to me. So
sure. Full circle.
Yeah, like some of it could almost be like an imagined problem. Like maybe starting with growing our newsletter audience better is really just the missing thing. And maybe it has nothing to do with the genres, like.
Yeah, maybe not.
And getting published in more places by other people, those two things alone could just give you more success at doing what you're already doing,
That's beautifully said. Because if the question is, well, we want to make comics and make money doing it, you are among the more successful Kickstarter creators. You've done so many different campaigns and they've been funded and at levels that some creators will struggle to ever get to. You are successful in that area. Is the question, we want to make more money doing it. We want to raise more money per campaign. If that's the only problem, paid advertising, buy more traffic, right? Like there's answers for it, which I make it sound, I'm oversimplifying. But my point is just,
if you want to learn more about the paid advertising, watch our last episode, because we went in really detail about that.
Yeah.
And if you want to learn more about the cat, he has his own Instagram. It's Chalathor the cat on Instagram.
Following
right
now.
So it's CHALITHOR.
It's a very
_ the _ cat. Chalathor.
Done.
We had a question in chat. Someone, I think it was Peter, was asking.
Yeah, Peter asked a question.
Fantastic.
The cat's name is Chalathor.
Yeah.
We call him Chal for short.
So,
Chal.
Lindsay, did this help?
It really, really did. It gave me some perspective that I didn't have, and a few things to mull over as far as, directions to take my career. Thank you.
Good. Very good. Well, everybody, I think we have ourselves a show. Unless anybody else has anything for Lindsay before we move on, or shall we?
No.
Okay. So let's go around and Lindsay, and I guess since you guys are technically going to be found at the same places, unless you want to separate that out, go ahead and tell the good folks where they can find you, what you're kickstarting, and so that they can go and find you.
All right. Well, we are Oneshi Press. That is spelled ONESHI Press. We can be found at oneshipress.com. And right now we are live on Kickstarter, funding our 14th comics anthology, the Side Quests Anthology. And you can find that at kickstarter.oneshipress.com. And we are on all the social medias as Oneshi Press.
You can also find us at home working in front of our computer pretty much from when we wake up to when we go to sleep every day.
True.
Or stopping to feed the cats.
Carmela, can you tell the good people where they can find you and what you're kickstarting, sir?
Certainly. Right now, my newest film, Name the Demon, is streaming on Amazon and on Tubi, and that's what we're kickstarting, the physical media release, and it ends tomorrow. So if anyone likes owning physical media like I do, we're doing the Blu-ray and the VHS. It was a stretch goal we unlocked. Apparently people want that again.
Interesting.
So Name the Demon live on Kickstarter now, ends tomorrow. Wow. We're funded. We're on some stretch goals, but I sure would love it if you pick up a copy. And if you're not a physical media person, stream it, on your streaming platform of choice. If you want to follow me or connect with me, Chimera's Comics, spelled just like the monster, on Facebook and on Instagram. Chimera Studios official is our movie handle for the movie side of the business. So, if you want to follow both or either works. And, if you're really cool, you can just send me a friend request on Facebook or follow me personally, Carmelo Chimera. I'll accept it as long as you're not a total creep or trying to get me into an MLM scheme. So that would be great.
Cool. Hold on, I just wanted to pull this up for Side Quest, just to show everybody off. So,
of course,
there you go. So yeah,
yes, 9 days.
9 days. Go get it.
And as a hint to anyone that's watching, there's bloopers at the end of the video. It's worth it. Short video.
And we're dressed up as elves.
Oh yeah, that's it.
It's a good time.
Oh, that's fun.
Special effects, green screen, everything.
All right, cool. Rob, why don't you let everybody know where they can find you and your work?
Yeah, before I do, why don't I make the announcement that we'll be taking a short hiatus. Yes. So we do every other Tuesday. We are taking a hiatus for the holidays. We will be back at your regular scheduled program at Tuesday, January 14th at 9 p.m. With another great set of creators. You can find me, Rob Malteri, at Lone Wolf Comics on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, whatever, Blue Sky, all the new ones, Hive, that have just recently cropped up. But you can find me personally at only Facebook, at Rob Malteri, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, because that's way too many for me to do. And yes, lonewolfcomics.com. You can find all my titles, my online shop, and you'll find me on Kickstarter again, probably winter of 25.
All right, cool. My name is JD Calderon. You can find me on the OswaldChronicles.com, TallTalesOnline.com, on Kickstarter currently, Facebook, Instagram, all those different places. And just about every Sunday night here, hosting a similar but different panel than this, where we just talk about comics and the business of comics. So, and I just got to add one thing. Please check out the show notes. All the links to all of these creators, they're in the show notes. Click on those links. Buy those books. All of these creators here are doing fantastic, incredible books. Please go check them out. I mean, I can't even stress it enough. This is how we do this. This is how we make these books possible, is by your support, right? And just remember, buy more indie comics, especially ours. Have a good night, everyone. Thank you.
Oh, fantastic.